Family dinners used to be my favorite nights. The smell of roast chicken filling the house, my son's laughter bouncing down the hallway, the clinking of silverware against china, they used to mean warmth, love, and the comfort of knowing I had built a home that was safe. But this dinner was different. Because halfway through her glass of wine, Chloe set her fork down, folded her hands neatly on the table, and looked me directly in the eyes. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. "Margaret," she said. "This house isn't really yours anymore. It belongs to us now." The room went silent. My son James, sitting between us, froze with his fork halfway to his mouth. I blinked at her, convinced I had misheard. "Excuse me?" Chloe tilted her head, her lips curving into the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "You've done so much here. But you're older now. You shouldn't have to carry this burden. James and I are ready to take over. You'll still live here, of course, but things will be in our name. Legally. For everyone's protection." Protection. That was the word she used. As if I were some fragile ornament she needed to lock away. But I saw the truth in her eyes. This wasn't about protection. It was about power. And in that moment, staring across my own dinner table at the woman who had married my son, I realized something chilling. She wanted everything. And she was going to do whatever it took to get it. My name is Margaret Ellis. I'm 58 years old, and for most of my life, I believed I had built something solid. I met my husband, Richard, when I was 20. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a laugh that turned heads in crowded rooms. He worked hard, built his own business from nothing, and together we built this house brick by brick. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. Every corner told a story. The pencil marks on the doorframe where we measured James as he grew. The crack in the living room window from the day he accidentally kicked a soccer ball inside. The lilac bushes out back that Richard planted for our anniversary. Richard used to say, "This house is more than wood and stone, Margaret. It's our anchor. Whatever storms come, this will hold us." And for years, it did. But storms have a way of finding you. Richard passed away suddenly 3 years ago. A heart attack, quick and merciless. One minute we were planning our retirement, and the next I was standing at his graveside, the world tilting under my feet. The house that once felt full of laughter became unbearably quiet. The only light left in my world was James. James was 32 now, but to me he would always be the boy with scraped knees and a grin that lit up my darkest days. He stayed close after his father's death, calling every day, dropping by to fix things around the house. He'd sit across from me at this very table, his hand over mine, and say, "Don't worry, Mom. I'll take care of you." And I believed him. But then he met Chloe. Chloe was dazzling the first time I met her. Petite, perfectly styled, with a smile that could disarm a room. She worked in marketing, she said, and within 5 minutes she was telling me how she admired strong women like me for keeping a house and family together. She charmed me. For a while. But little by little, I noticed the cracks. The way she corrected James in front of me, always with a laugh that felt more like a jab. The way she took over conversations, talking about herself until no one else had room. The way she complimented me, but only with faint barbs hidden underneath. "You've kept this house nice, Margaret. For its age. You must be so proud of James. He's really come so far, in spite of everything. In your shoes, I'd be exhausted keeping up with everything at your age." They were small, subtle. But they added up. And slowly, I realized that Chloe didn't see me as family. She saw me as competition. James, blinded by love, didn't notice. He was always quick to defend her. "She didn't mean it like that, Mom. You're overthinking. Chloe loves you. Can't you just try to get along? For me?" So I tried. I smiled through dinners where she steered conversations away from my stories. I bit my tongue when she rearranged my kitchen cabinets without asking. I swallowed my pride when she hinted that maybe the house was too big for one person. For James, I endured it all. Because I never imagined she would take it further. Until that night. Sitting at my dinner table, in the house my husband built, Chloe told me to my face that it wasn't mine anymore. I stared at her across the table, my fingers tightening around my glass. James looked between us, torn, silent, weak. And I realized with a sick twist in my gut, she wasn't asking. She was telling me what she had already decided. Backhand index pointing right. What would you do if your daughter-in-law looked you in the eyes at your own dinner table and said your house now belonged to her? Would you confront her right then, or stay silent and plan your next move? Fire, and don't forget, subscribe to the Betrayal Diaries for more shocking betrayals and revenge stories where justice always comes in the end. After that dinner, Chloe's words echoed in my head long after the dishes were cleared and the house had gone quiet. This house isn't really yours anymore. It belongs to us now. She had said it so casually, as if it were already fact. And the worst part? James hadn't denied it. He had just sat there, pale, silent, staring at his plate like a little boy caught between two parents. That silence was louder than anything Chloe could have said. The next morning, I stood in the kitchen with my coffee, staring out at Richard's lilac bushes. My hands shook as I lifted the cup. Had I missed something? Could Chloe really have convinced James to go behind my back? No. He wouldn't. Not my son. Not after everything we'd been through. But the knot in my stomach refused to loosen. I decided I needed to know the truth. The first cracks showed up in conversation. A week later, James stopped by to fix a leaky faucet. We sat down afterward for tea, and I asked carefully, James, what did Chloe mean the other night about the house being theirs? He froze, his spoon clinking against the saucer. She just worries about you, Mom. It's a lot of responsibility. She thinks it would be easier if things were, in our names. In your names? I repeated, my voice tight. He shifted uncomfortably. Just legally. You'd still live here. Nothing would change. My heart sank. James, did you already sign something? He avoided my eyes, suddenly fascinated by the sugar bowl. It's just paperwork. Chloe said it was safer this way. Protects you if something happens. If something happens. As if I were already gone. That night, I couldn't sleep. I went through Richard's old desk, searching for answers. And that's when I found them. A folder tucked away, filled with documents I hadn't seen before. Property transfer agreements. Amendments to bank accounts. Legal jargon stamped with signatures. My husband's name was gone. Mine was fading into the background. And in bold, fresh ink, was James's name. And Chloe's. I felt the blood drain from my face. My own son had signed away parts of my life. And Chloe, she had orchestrated it all. The betrayal was sharper because it was wrapped in love. Chloe didn't scream or fight. She cooed, she reasoned, she wrapped her poison in soft words. I overheard her one evening when James had called me on speaker without realizing it. Her voice floated through the phone, dripping with honey. Your mom's tired, James. She's overwhelmed. She shouldn't have to carry all this. If you really love her, you'll take the weight off her shoulders. You'll sign the papers. It's the right thing to do. And then, softer, besides, it's not like she'll be around forever. Don't you want to secure our future now? My hand tightened around the phone so hard I thought it might crack. Dead weight. That's what she thought I was. Something to be cleared out of the way. I tried to confront James gently. One Sunday, as we walked in the garden, I asked, do you really think I can't manage on my own? He sighed. Mom, it's not about that. Chloe just wants what's best for everyone. You'll still live here. Nothing will change. But everything had already changed. Because my son no longer saw me as strong, capable, independent. He saw me through Chloe's eyes, as a burden. The final blow came when I overheard Chloe talking to a friend on the phone. She didn't know I was in the next room. Her laughter rang out, sharp and cruel. "Oh, please. Margaret can barely keep up anymore. This house is practically ours already. James signed everything. She's just lingering. Lingering. As if I were some ghost haunting my own home." That night, I stood in the middle of the living room, staring at the walls Richard had painted, the photographs of our life together, the marks on the doorframe where James had grown up. And I felt something harden inside me. They thought they could take everything. They thought I was weak. They thought I would just fade away, grateful for scraps. But they had forgotten one thing. This was my house. My life. And I wasn't about to let Chloe write me out of it. Not without a fight. Backhand index pointing right. What would you do if your own son signed away your house under his wife's influence? Would you confront them immediately, or quietly start planning your revenge? Fire, and don't forget, subscribe to the Betrayal Diaries for more stories where betrayal cuts deep, but revenge burns brighter. For days after I found the folder in Richard's desk, I moved through the house like a ghost. I touched the walls, the lilac bushes, the doorframe where James's childhood height was still penciled in. I thought about all the hours Richard had poured into building this place, the sweat, the love, the laughter. And I realized Chloe hadn't just stolen paper and ink. She was trying to erase history. But history is stubborn. And so am I. The first thing I learned in life was that grief can make you brittle, but anger, righteous anger, can make you sharp. I didn't confront James again. Not yet. Instead, I smiled. I nodded when Chloe prattled about protecting me. I even let her reorganize the pantry, biting back every instinct to throw her out on the street. Let her think she had one. Because when a snake is convinced the prey has given up, that's when it slithers closest. And that's when you strike. My first call was to a lawyer. Not the family friend who had helped with Richard's estate. Chloe would expect that. No, I went to someone new. A woman named Dana Wright, recommended quietly by an old friend of mine who had fought her own messy divorce and won. Dana's office was sleek, filled with files and the smell of fresh coffee. She listened carefully as I laid out everything: Chloe's words at the dinner table, James's silence, the signed papers, the overheard phone calls. When I finished, Dana leaned back, tapping her pen against her notepad. "Margaret, what Chloe is doing isn't just manipulative. It could be fraud. If she coerced James into signing, or if she presented documents under false pretenses, we can challenge it. But we'll need proof." Her eyes narrowed. "Do you think she'd go as far as forging your signature?" I thought of the folder. The way my name had been transferred so seamlessly. My stomach turned. "Yes," I whispered. "I think she would." Dana connected me with a forensic document examiner, a man named Lewis who looked more like a librarian than a detective. But when he compared Richard's old signatures, my own, and the new paperwork, his eyebrows rose. "See here," he said, pointing to a swoop in the M of my name. "That hesitation mark? That's a sign of tracing. And here, inconsistent pressure. This wasn't written naturally." He looked up at me, his expression grave. "Margaret, this isn't your handwriting. Someone forged your signature." My stomach dropped, but at the same time, a spark flared in my chest. Proof. Not just suspicion. Not just whispers. Cold, hard proof. But I couldn't stop there. I needed to show not just the fraud, but the manipulation. So I hired a financial investigator, a quiet man named Victor who specialized in tracing money. He combed through bank records, credit cards, investments. And what he found made my blood boil. Transfers from James's account into Chloe's private savings. Purchases under his name but delivered to her. Payments labeled as house expenses that went straight into her personal credit line. She wasn't just trying to take my house. She was bleeding my son dry. Through it all, I played the part. At dinners, I smiled when she served her recipes at my table. At family outings, I clapped politely when she told stories that painted me as forgetful, clumsy, outdated. When she laughed about how much work it must be keeping up this old place, I laughed too. And she believed me. Because arrogance blinds people faster than love ever can. She thought I was beaten. She thought I was small. But every smile I gave her was another brick in the trap I was building. The hardest part was James. My sweet boy, who had once run to me with scraped knees and whispered, "Don't worry, Mom, I'll take care of you." Now he stood beside Chloe, nodding when she spoke, parroting her words about responsibility and the future. I wanted to shake him, to scream, "Can't you see what she's doing?" But I didn't. Because I knew if I pushed, he would only retreat further into her arms. So I stayed silent. And I waited. Weeks turned into months. And then, one evening, Chloe slipped. She came into the kitchen while I was making tea, her voice low, her smile razor-sharp. "You know, Margaret," she said, "you should be grateful. Most women your age end up in nursing homes. But I'm letting you stay here. For now." I turned slowly, my hand steady on the teacup. "How generous of you." She smirked. "Don't get too comfortable." What she didn't know was that Louis had already confirmed her forgery. Victor had already traced her financial schemes. Dana had already prepared the legal motions. I wasn't comfortable. I was ready. I went to bed that night with my heart racing, not from fear, but from anticipation. Because the day was coming. The day Chloe would try to push me out for good. And on that day, I would finally show her everything. Every forgery. Every stolen dollar. Every word she thought I didn't hear. And when I did, the room would go silent. And Chloe would realize the truth. I wasn't the dead weight. I was the storm she never saw coming. Backhand index pointing right. What would you do if you discovered your daughter-in-law forged your signature and stole from your family? Would you confront her privately, or wait to expose her in front of everyone? Fire! Don't forget, subscribe to the Betrayal Diaries for more shocking betrayals and revenge stories where karma always arrives, right on time. The day came sooner than I expected. Chloe had been circling for weeks, waiting for the right moment to strike. She'd grown bolder, more careless, as if convinced I'd given up. So when James suggested a family dinner, just the three of us, Mom, to talk about the future, I knew. This was it. The trap I'd been building was finally going to snap shut. I dressed carefully that evening. Not in morning black, not in tired cardigans that Chloe liked to joke about. I chose a deep navy dress, simple but sharp, with a silver brooch Richard had once given me. I wanted to look like myself. Strong. Rooted. Unshaken. When I stepped into the dining room, Chloe's eyes flicked over me, her smile tight. She had set the table herself, candles lit, wine poured, every detail arranged like a performance. James looked nervous. Too much wine in his glass, hands fidgeting. And Chloe, oh, she was radiant. Hair perfect, lips painted, her crimson dress glowing in the candlelight. She thought this was her coronation. But it was about to become her undoing. Dinner passed in a blur of small talk. Chloe dominated the conversation, as always, laughing too loudly at her own jokes, dismissing mine with a flick of her hand. And then, as dessert plates were cleared, she leaned forward, her voice soft, rehearsed. "Margaret, we've been thinking. It's time to make some changes. This house, it's too much for you. You'll be more comfortable in a smaller place. James and I can take over here, start our own family. You'll still be part of it, of course, but in a space that suits your needs." Her words dripped with false sweetness. James nodded weakly beside her. And I felt the room tighten like a drum. This was it. I set down my glass deliberately, letting the sound echo. "Interesting," I said. "Because I've been doing some thinking too." Chloe blinked, clearly not expecting me to push back. Oh. About what? I reached into my bag and laid a folder on the table. This, I said calmly. About how you forged my signature on property transfer documents. The blood drained from James's face. Chloe's smile froze. What? James whispered. I slid the first page toward him. Look at the handwriting, James. Compare it to mine. A professional document examiner confirmed it's not my signature. It's hers. Chloe's laugh was sharp, brittle. That's ridiculous. Anyone can make mistakes in handwriting. But I cut her off, my voice cold. Not like this. Not with tracing marks, inconsistent pressure, and identical copies across different documents. It's fraud, Chloe. And I have the report to prove it. James's hands trembled as he scanned the paper. Tell me this isn't true, he begged her. But Chloe's eyes narrowed. She straightened in her chair, defiant. She's lying. She's twisting everything. Can't you see, James? She's jealous. She doesn't want to let go of control. I opened the second folder. Bank statements, neatly highlighted. Really? I asked softly. Then maybe you can explain why thousands of dollars were transferred from James's account into your private savings. Or why purchases for jewelry and designer handbags were listed as household expenses. Gasps filled the room, not just from James this time. Because I hadn't kept this gathering to just the three of us. At the last minute, I'd invited Richard's sister, my brother, and two of James's cousins. I told Chloe it was just family, for support. She hadn't objected. She'd thought more witnesses meant more pressure on me. But now, those witnesses sat frozen, their eyes wide as every page of evidence landed on the table. Margaret, my brother whispered. You can't be serious. She really? I nodded once. Every cent traced. Every signature examined. Every lie documented. Chloe's mask cracked. Her lips curled back, her voice sharp with venom. You stupid, meddling hag. You think anyone's going to believe you over me? James loves me. He'll side with me, no matter what you say. But James didn't look at her. His eyes were locked on the papers, his face ashen. Chloe, he said slowly, his voice breaking. Tell me you didn't do this. Her silence was louder than any confession. She tried one last time, her voice frantic now. I did it for us, James. For our future. She's old, she's clinging to the past. But James slammed his hand on the table, making everyone jump. Enough. The word rang through the room like a gunshot. Tears burned my eyes, but I held them back. This wasn't the moment for weakness. This was the moment for truth. I leaned forward, my voice steady. You thought I was fragile, Chloe. You thought I'd let you steal everything Richard and I built. But you underestimated me. You forgot whose house this is. And tonight, you've shown everyone exactly who you are. The room went silent. So silent you could hear the candles flicker. Chloe stared around, realizing for the first time that no one was on her side. Not James. Not his family. Not even the walls that had once seemed to close in around me. She was alone. Exposed. Finished. And I sat back in my chair, calm, collected, watching her crumble. Because revenge didn't need screaming or violence. It just needed the truth. And I had delivered it. Backhand index pointing right. If you had the chance to expose a scheming in-law in front of your whole family, would you take it, or would you handle it privately? Fire. Don't forget, subscribe to the Betrayal Diaries for more shocking betrayals and revenge stories where the guilty are always unmasked. After that night, nothing in our family was ever the same. For a few moments after I dropped the last piece of evidence on the table, the room sat in stunned silence. Chloe's mask had cracked, her voice shrill, her charm stripped away. James sat slumped, his face pale, as if the weight of every lie had finally settled on his shoulders. And I felt lighter than I had in years. Because for the first time since Richard died, the truth was no longer mine to carry alone. Everyone had seen it. Everyone had heard it. And there was no going back. Chloe left that night in a fury. She grabbed her purse, knocking over a glass in the process, and stormed out without looking back. James followed her to the door, calling her name, but she didn't stop. The slam echoed through the house like thunder. For a long time after, no one spoke. Finally, my brother cleared his throat. "Margaret, you did the right thing." But I didn't need his reassurance. Because I knew. The fallout came quickly. Chloe tried to spin the story, of course. She called James's cousins, claiming I had manipulated the evidence, that I was bitter and jealous. But the problem with evidence is that it doesn't care about feelings. The forensic report was clear. The bank transfers undeniable. The recordings of her sly comments too sharp to ignore. And word spread. Not just through family, but through Chloe's own circles. Friends she had bragged to now turned away. Employers she had charmed began to whisper. She had always thrived on reputation, on being the dazzling woman who had it all. Now, that reputation was poison. James was broken. He came to me 2 days later, standing on the porch where he had once played as a boy. His shoulders slumped, his eyes red from sleepless nights. "Mom," he whispered, "I'm so sorry." I looked at him for a long moment. This was my son. The boy I had raised, the man Richard and I had poured our love into. And yet, he had let Chloe lead him down a path that nearly destroyed me. "Do you know what hurts the most, James?" I asked quietly. He shook his head, tears spilling down his cheeks. "That you didn't trust me enough to see through her. That you let her voice drown out mine." "I know," he choked. "I was blind. I thought she wanted what was best for us. For you. I didn't realize. I didn't want to realize. Please, Mom, I'll fix this. I'll do whatever it takes." I studied him, the guilt etched into every line of his face. And finally, I nodded. "Then start by remembering who you are. And never let anyone speak for you again." The legal system moved slower than gossip, but eventually, Chloe's schemes caught up with her. Dana filed motions that nullified the forged documents. Lewis's report was submitted as evidence. Victor's financial tracing proved embezzlement from James's accounts. Chloe tried to fight, but every argument crumbled under the weight of proof. The judge ruled in my favor. The house was mine, untouchable, protected. Chloe was ordered to repay funds she had siphoned from James. And though I didn't need it, I took satisfaction in watching her face as the ruling was read. That smirk she had worn for so long. Gone. Replaced by the tight, bitter mask of someone who realized the game was over. After the court ruling, Chloe disappeared from our lives. Rumors drifted back, that she had tried to reinvent herself in another city, but people always found the stories. Screenshots, whispers, reputations that follow like shadows. She was no longer dazzling. She was radioactive. As for James, the road back was longer. Trust, once broken, isn't easily mended. But he tried. He showed up for dinner every week, helping me tend to Richard's lilacs. He asked questions instead of assuming, listened instead of brushing me off. And slowly, I saw the boy I had raised return. Not the man who let Chloe speak for him. But the man who could stand tall on his own. And me? I learned something, too. That age doesn't make you weak. That grief doesn't make you fragile. That silence doesn't make you invisible. I learned that even when people try to erase you, the truth has its own voice. And when it's finally spoken, it can shake walls, end lies, and bring down the people who thought they were untouchable. One evening, months after it all ended, I sat on the porch watching the sunset. The air smelled of lilacs, the sky painted in pinks and oranges. And for the first time in years, I felt Richard beside me. Not in body, but in spirit. I imagined him smiling, his hand warm in mine. "You did it, Margaret," I heard him say in my heart. "You held the anchor. You protected what we built." And I smiled, tears slipping down my cheeks. Because I had. Revenge isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the quiet satisfaction of sitting in the home they tried to take from you, knowing you won. Sometimes it's the peace of watching your enemies crumble under the weight of their own lies. And sometimes, it's the glow of realizing you were never weak at all, you were just waiting for the right moment to remind them. That was my revenge glow. And it was worth every second. Backhand index pointing right. If you were in Margaret's shoes, would you forgive your son for being blinded, or cut him out along with his wife?